entire minors. He's hitting over 450 over the last 15 games with 11 home runs, 3 separate 2-homer performances. Now, he got the start in left field Wednesday. He started in right field last night. So there's 2 starts in the outfield over the last 3 games. Why is that significant? Well, significant because Josh Donaldson, as you know, is the regular first baseman in Atlanta. And by him playing third base, which is Riley's natural position, there's a roadblock, right? So the Braves are thinking about moving Ronald Acuna Jr. over to center field. Why? Here's why. Because their center fielder, Ender Inciarte, since May 6th, has had 11 at-bats and no hits. Ender Inciarte is hitting .216 on the season. Okay? And so, with Ender Inciarte on the skids, the Braves need some offense. Austin Riley is a masher. He is a masher. I'm telling you. And so, with Austin Riley playing the outfield, he's given the Braves the option to bring him up. I think he's up sooner than later. And so, I think Austin Riley will be in Atlanta before the month of May is out. Now, you know I got to talk about my boy Jordan Alvarez. It just doesn't stop. I've talked about his stats enough on this show. I will talk about the box score from last night. Last night, Alvarez batted cleanup for Round Rock Express. They beat the Omaha Storm Chasers 8-7. Alvarez batted cleanup. He had 4 at-bats, 3 hits, 3 RBIs, a walk. He's hitting .398 on the season with a 1.345 OPS. Okay, now, it's time, Houston, to bring him up. Let White go. Let him take his place on the 40-man roster, and let's see what Alvarez can do. I think Alvarez may be up this week. I think he certainly will be up in May. He's shown he can hit at the highest levels, and it's time for he and Riley to get the call. Got a couple more players at the minor league level before we talk about games coming up this week and offenses that you want to be looking at. About Keston Hiura for Milwaukee. He's at AAA San Antonio, and he has hit .312 over 100 plate appearances this year. He had some struggles early on with striking out. Couldn't hit the ball. Struck out 24 times over the first 15 games. But he has really improved in that area, only striking out 8 times over his last 11 games. There isn't a spot right now at the major league level, but there could be. Because as we know, every team seems to have a weakness, right? And for Milwaukee, now here I play second base, okay? So what you got to do is you say, okay, who's playing second base right now in Milwaukee? And, of course, that's Mike Moustakas. And Moustakas is having a very good season, okay? Hitting around .270, 9 home runs. And so you certainly aren't going to put Moustakas out of the lineup, are you? But Moustakas can play third base, and he's a third baseman by trade. And Travis Shaw, who plays second base normally, and it's been announced, is not playing at all this weekend in Chicago against left-handed pitching. Travis Shaw is only hitting .172 for Milwaukee. 172. Couldn't you just see Hiura coming up, playing second base, and Travis Shaw maybe playing some at first? If he could get hot, because, they're having the problem with Aguilar at first. Nobody's really shown the first baseman there they can hit with regularity this year. Anyway, I think there's opportunity for Hiura, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him called up sooner than later also. One more player I want to talk about before I get into offenses for the week, and that's Colorado Rockies second baseman Brandon Rogers. Now, why Brandon Rogers? When you've got McMahon and you've got Hampson. Well, that's exactly it. Because you do have McMahon and you do have Hampson, it's a great reason to call up Rogers. Hampson and McMahon, let's look at their numbers, if we will, please. Well, since May the 7th, how many hits has Ryan McMahon had. The same number as Andrea Lamont and Arnie Jones combined. None. Okay? And Ryan McMahon is hitting .222 on the season. What about Hampson? Well, Hampson went 2 for 3 last night. But it's the first time he had played since May 7th. And for the season, he's hitting a robust .202 with 1 homer and 1 stolen base. The point being, they've had a month and neither player has established themselves. And what has been said and read and talked about and reported is they were placeholders anyway for Brandon Rogers. Rogers is hitting .336 with the Isotopes. He's been playing second base basically all year. He's typically a shortstop by trade, but they've been playing him at second base to get him ready for this call. And my question is on all 4 of these guys, when's the phone going to ring? I mean, it's time for the phone to ring. Get these guys up. Let's see what they can do. Okay. Now, I want to talk about the games to come this week. And certain offenses I think you want to look at, and certain offenses I think you may not want to look at. And we talked about the Red Sox earlier. Well, for fantasy purposes, the Red Sox in the upcoming week, they only play 5 games this week. Okay? They don't play Monday. They don't play Thursday. And next weekend, they face the Astros. Now, on Tuesday and Wednesday, they're at home against Colorado, and I already talked about Kyle Freeland, how he's a gas chamber. But Marquez is pitching on Wednesday. He's strong. He pitched last night. The Red Sox have some tough games this week, or lack of them. Just letting you know. The Reds, they play 6 games this week, but they play the Cubs and they play the Dodgers. Maeda, Buehler, and Ryu, Hendricks, Darvish, and Quintana, and they're off on Monday. So I'm not really high on the Reds this week. The Rockies, they play 5 games. They're off Monday and Thursday. And they're on the road in Boston and Philadelphia. Just a tough setup there for the Rockies this week. Miami, always a tough team to hit. The Brewers, though, Brewers have 7 games this week. But they're all on the road. 4 in Philly, 3 in Atlanta. The Brewers hit much better at home. Christian Yelich, check out his home road splits, for example. Incredible difference. So those are some tough games for Brewers hitters. Now, let's look at some not so tough games. You know who's really got the setup of the week? The Toronto Blue Jays. And this could be the week that Vladdy Guerrero actually makes a return from AAA. Okay, they're off Monday, but then they're at San Francisco and 4 games on the road at Comiskey against the White Sox. So I'm liking Toronto's opportunity this week. Typically, I wouldn't, but I do this week. Also, coming up this week, a schedule that I like for hitters. How about Kansas City? They've got 6 games. 3 at home against Texas, Miller, Minor, and Lynn. And then at Anaheim, Harvey, Canning, and Skaggs. And the Royals love to run. They're good hitters, and it's a good setup for them. Cleveland, 6 games this week. At Chicago, White Sox for 2. And 4 at home against the Orioles. I saved that one for last because I'm loving me some Cleveland Indians this week. This could be the week for Jose Ramirez. This could be Lindor's week. These are guys you want to look at starting because of the schedule. And that's the thing. It's not always who the player is, but I think it's also just as important who is the player playing. And these are some games I think of note, of interest. I think you ought to take a look at the schedule and planning your lineups for the week. So let's go back to the trivia question. Nobody has answered yet. Let's see. I told you on this date in 1996, something happened in Marlins history. I told you it was a no-hitter, and I asked you who was the pitcher. Al Leiter! Al Leiter threw the first no-hitter in Marlins history on this date, May 11, 1996. And in that game, the first 3 innings, he didn't look like a no-hitter. He walked 2, he hit a batter, but then he retired the last 20 in a row to dominate and win the game. Let's look at some of the comments in the chat room. Shaw's another guy like Schwarber who should be DH in the AL. Yeah. Zobrist Don't know about that. I know that he has not been playing. And I tell you, if you have any personal issues, they can really take a toll on your brain. Last night, I think it was in L.A., the shortstop, he was in the lineup and then removed for personal reasons. Don't know what that's about. But looking forward, I'm really concerned about when I see personal issues for a player and you don't get a lot of explanation as to what it is, right? But Corey Seager, that's why he left the game last night in L.A. due to a personal matter. I've tried to find out what the matter was, but I can't find it. They say that in the L.A. paper this morning, he's expected to play Saturday night. We'll see. But an interesting note there about personal issues with Cubs with Zobrist. Wow, you never know. And if it is a marriage situation, I've been through that. It's never fun, is it? And I hope that that thing works out for both of them. I really do. Baseball is important, but life is more important. And the thing I've heard about Lenny say so many times, and he told me this when I first came on the network, was, this is fun and all, but we got things going on in our personal lives, and they're always more important than any of this. And never lose sight of that, right? Never lose sight of that. Let's look at our schedule coming up. Lou is on after me today at 12. I think that's the last scheduled event for today. And then tomorrow night, Fantasy Doghouse. So you want to stay tuned. Support all of these guys on the network. It's such an incredible group of folks. We've got, Lenny's daily podcast every day, DFS Hangover, Pitches Getting Stitches with Joel, Drop the Mic with Michael Eccleston. I was online with Michael getting a training class this week. Great guy. George, Lou and Ron, the Fisticuffs, Easy Kill. Of course, my buddy Phil Chappie and his show on Tuesday night. Just great folks. Lenny and Andrea do a super job, and we're just going to keep trying to get better and better as we go along. I'm out of material for today, so we're going to call it a day. Thank you so much for joining me this Saturday. I'll be back with you Tuesday night at 6, and then Chappie and I will be on Tuesday night at 9. So please join us then. Have some questions for us. Be ready to respond. But for now, have a great Saturday. Watch some baseball. And this is Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports.